Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of New Reads. In this edition of New Reads, I am planning to introduce a book that has been talked about much in India as well as in abroad. And this is a book by the celebrated author Arundhati Roy, and the book is titled Mother Mary Comes to Me. Now, this is quite a voluminous book. It has got around 370 odd pages. And the title of the book is interesting because it draws from the a line in the Beatles where Paul McCartney has sung this particular song, which said that when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Well, in this book, the Mother Mary is none other than Arundhati Roy's own mother, Mary Roy. Now, Mary Roy has been an educationist in Kerala, and she's well known as a person who has set up a school called Pallikudam, and she has given education to so many students over the last several years, ever since it was set up in somewhere in the 60s. More than that, I mean, she is also very well known for her fight against the Travancore Succession Act, which prohibited certain women from inheriting or inheriting the property of their parents. And she finally won that fight in the Supreme Court. So she is also equally well known for that. Arundhati Roy, as you know, is very well known in India and as well as abroad for her first novel, and that was The God of Small Things, which came out in 1996. It is set in Aymanam, a small village in Kerala. And this went on to win the Man Booker Prize the next year, that is in 1997. But immediately after that, Arundhati Roy was plunged, or Arundhati Roy plunged herself into something extremely different from her writing of novels, and this was her writing of political essays over a long period of time. Till, of course, she came and wrote the Ministry of Utmost Happiness, which is the second novel that she's done. This book, of course, is a kind of an autobiographical work. She says that this is a book about Mary Roy, her mother, but at the same time, it is about Arundhati Roy herself. It draws upon the very, very fragile nature, very, very, what you would call it, peculiar nature of Arundhati Roy's relationship with her mother. It was a kind of a love-hate relationship. And, there were times when both she as well as her brother had to go through a lot of difficulty in terms of dealing with their mother. She used to throw them out of the house. She used to throw her out of the car. And the mother had a special kind of a dislike for the son, it seems, in the sense that he would always be pulled up and made an example out of. So both the children had a kind of very, very tricky relationship with her mother. And maybe, one of the reasons for it could be that for Mary Roy to be the woman that she was, the tough, hard-hearted woman that she's being portrayed, would have been her own troubles, early in her life, including her troubled marriage, which ended in a divorce. She was married to Mickey Roy, a Bengali, but then he had turned into a kind of an alcoholic, and that sort of created a lot of marital issues. And eventually, she divorced Mickey and settled in Aymanam in Kottayam district in Kerala. In the initial part of the book, we see how the author describes the very, very volatile childhood. How they have been feeling extremely insecure because they don't have a place to live. Finally, she goes to Ooty, and she lives with her mother and brother in her grandfather's house, only to be threatened by her uncle and her grandmother. that they will be thrown out of the house, etc. But finally, they managed to live there in Ooty. Maybe that was one incident which sort of spurred Mary Roy's instincts to take up this big fight against the Succession Act later on in life, and to fight with her own brother, so that she is also equally she also equally inherits her parents' property and wealth. Uh, while we are taken through the kind of a very very troubled childhood, we are also brought to some very lighter moments, where the brother and the sister share very very light moments in life, very funny moments, in the idyllic Aymanam village in Kerala, as well as some of the incidents at the school which Mary Roy finally sets up. And both the children study in the school. They have good teachers, excellent upbringing that way. Although it was a very small place by then, but Mary Roy, being a visionary, she ensured that the children were given all facets of the education and exposed to a variety of things. But at the same time, being in a constant conflict with her mother made Arundhati Roy realize that someday she will have to leave Aymanam, leave Kerala and be on her own. So at the age of 16, she finally lands up in Delhi, and that is the year 1975, where she begins to enter a new life. So that forms the next part of the book, where we explore the writer as an architect, and she takes up architectural projects. At the same time, we also find that she gets into certain relationships in Kerala itself. She gets into a relationship with a person she describes as Jesus Christ, because he looks like Jesus. And then later on with one Pradeep, who plays a big role in giving her a kind of a settled atmosphere. He has two kids from his previous marriage, but then they get into a relationship, and later on the wife dies. So Arundhati starts living with him and the two daughters, and that gave her a lot of room, and literally a room to write, because she would go into hours. She would go hours on end in her new home, shut up in one particular room, and then she would start writing. That really led to a lot of artistic and creative work, including certain movies, and the big work that was The God of Small Things. Now, God of Small Things gave her a lot of acclaim. She became a celebrity almost overnight, and at the same time, she was feeling very, very uncomfortable about this. The next year, that is in 1998, the Hindu right wing government came into power, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he created a huge news around the world when the Pokhran nuclear test was carried out. So when it was done, Arundhati Roy said that, this is not the time when I will be silent and I have to talk against nuclear weapons. And that is when she came up with her first essay, The End of Imagination. And after that, there has been a series of such essays that she has taken up. And the most notable was the one that she published the next year in 1999, which was about the Narmada dam that was being constructed, and the Narmada Bachao Andolan, which where the villagers had gotten together because they wanted to highlight the fact that with the dam coming up, their lives will be in danger, their homes will be submerged in water, and they will lose their lives and livelihood. So that was something that she tried to highlight in the essay, The Greater Common Good. And after that, she has done several works, but including a book called Asadi, where she captures a lot of her essays around the politics, democracy, freedom, etc., etc. And of course, then we have this particular novel, Mother Mary Comes to Me. The book I wouldn't call it a novel. The book, of course, talks about in the later part how she became a writer, and she credits her mother with a lot for making her the human being that she has been, despite all the kind of pressures she had gone through. Maybe it made her more alert, more alive to issues, more conscious of what she was doing. Maybe it ignited a kind of a will in her that made her write certain things. Maybe it gave her a kind of a hunger to pursue certain things and get it done, to seek freedom and make sure that she's a free person. So these are the kind of things that she describes in this book. And at one point, she says, I left my mother not because I didn't love her, but in order to be able to continue to love her. Staying would have made that impossible. So that sums up the relationship. And she knew that in order to love her, she has to love the mother. She will have to first be comfortable with herself, and for doing that, she needs to have the independence and the freedom. And she asks for it, and she gets it. So in later life, we see that in the book, Arundhati Roy reaches out to her mother very often. She's always petrified how her mother's response will be. When she won the Booker Prize, the mother was, of course, very, very happy. At the same time, she did not really approve of some of the things that were being said in the book. She knew that what the main character in the book, Ammu, is a reflection of herself, that is Mary Roy. But at the same time, it was partly fiction. In fact, when it comes to this book, even, there are critics who say that although she is talking about things that have really happened in her life, the way she says it, in a very, very exciting way, she adds a lot of color to whatever she's saying, which sometimes borders on being ridiculous. Can this really happen in somebody's life? It's a question that we all might ask. So that way, this is a book which is extremely interesting, where it goes on to the aspects where Arundhati Roy sketches her very, very, very peculiar relationship, which ended in 2022 when her mother died. And she flew to Kottayam, and they ensured that she had a funeral which really befits her. And the state government, the people gave her a farewell, which really, really befitted Mary Roy, the educationist, and the main character of this particular book. This book is written in a very, very beautiful language. We are all familiar with Arundhati Roy's work. When she's dealing with fiction, or when she's dealing with non-fiction, her power of words, the way she structures her sentences. In fact, the entire book, the way she mixes the good and bad, her very, very sharp sense of humor when she narrates certain incidents. At the same time, she doesn't have any problem in making fun of herself sometimes, which if need be. So this book is absolutely a good read, and it has added a lot of heft to the kind of work, the body of work which Arundhati Roy has already created as a writer. And I believe personally that this book is not just about not just a tribute to Mary Roy, her mother, but it's also extremely autobiographical in the sense that it reveals to us, the reader, the writer Arundhati Roy, how she became a writer, what are the forces that acted, that enabled her to, or rather conspired to make a writer out of Arundhati Roy. So, in that sense, this is a very, very important work as far as the author is concerned. As far as Arundhati Roy, who celebrated her birthday just yesterday on November 24th, is concerned. Now, let me just read a small portion from the beginning of the book. This is a kind of an introduction where she talks about her mother. In my effort to fathom my mother, to see things from her perspective, to accommodate her, to understand what hurt her, what made her do the things she did, and to predict what she may or may not do next, I turned into a maze, a labyrinth of pathways that zigzag underground and surface in strange places, hoping to gain a vantage point for a perspective other than my own. Seeing through her lenses that were not entirely colored by my own experience of her made me value her for the woman she was. It made me a writer, a novelist, because that's what novelists are, labyrinths. And now this labyrinth must make sense of its labyrinthine self without her. So, this is a book that I liked particularly, and I'm sure that it will be a good read for every one of my viewers. Thank you so much. Good day.